So yesterday we were dealing with the reproductive hormones, especially the ovarian hormones and also the hormones which are secreted from the anterior pituitary. So the today, especially we will deal with the hormones, especially the gonadotropin releasing hormone or the hormone receptor agonists, means which are going to mimic the gonadotropin releasing hormone or GnRH analogs. So there are varieties of the GnRH receptor agonists, and these are also called as the GnRH agonists, has been synthesized recently by chemical modification of the GnRH molecules. And these agents usually have the greater biological activity and the longer half-life compared to the naturally synthesized GnRH, and they have got the higher binding affinity towards the receptors, especially the GnRH receptors. So these agents initially increase gonadotropin release from the anterior pituitary. Later, after 1 to 2 weeks, they inhibit FSH and LH secretion and suppress gonadal function because their continued presence in the body causes desensitization and also the downregulation of the GnRH receptor. So what happens if you administered the GnRH agonists or analogs, then initially there will be a increased gonadal activity, but later it is going to be decreased. The reason being is the downregulation of the receptors. So downregulation of the receptor means the number of the receptors may be decreased, and the recovery of testicular or ovarian steroidogenesis occurs within 2 months of stopping GnRH analog treatment. So the GnRH receptor agonists are frequently used in case of human medicine, but have also, even though it's told that they have got the limited application in veterinary use, they are very commonly used nowadays. So this is one of the very commonly used preparation, the buserelin acetate, and it's available as the Kynarich, and in Zydarelin, and many more companies are going to produce this particular drug. So buserelin is a synthetic analog of GnRH. So it acts on the agonist at pituitary GnRH receptors. So it is about 20 times potent than the natural GnRH and is comparatively longer acting than the endogenous GnRH. Means the endogenous GnRH is not going to act for a long time, whereas the exogenous suddenly administered GnRH agonist, that's the buserelin acetate, or many companies like MSD, they are producing it in the name of the Receptal, and of course Kynarich, and many more preparations, Zydarelin, like that. Different companies produce these injections, and nowadays it is very popular to use such injections. So what happens when you administer this hormone? It increases the gonadotropin release from anterior pituitary by causing activation of the GnRH receptor. But after chronic and continuous administration, usually 2 to 4 weeks after initiation of the therapy, a sustained decrease in LH and FSH secretion, and a marked reduction in testicular and ovarian steroidogenesis is observed. That means it should not be given continuously. As a transient use, it's well and fine, but if you use it continuously, then there will be decrease in the secretion of LH and FSH. So buserelin is used mainly in the males for induction of ovulation or stimulation of cystic ovaries, and in case of cattle for follicular cyst and improvement in case of the conception rate. So this injection is very commonly used in case of the veterinary practice. So it can also be used in case of the prostate cancer and breast cancer, estrogen dependent conditions such as endometritis or uterine fibroids, and also in the assisted reproductive program. So it is used in fish farming industry. Of course, overall its use in it is less, but nowadays the use of this hormone is markedly it is increased. The cost of this hormone for 10 ml it is costing about 600 rupees, and the dose is usually 2.5 ml, or otherwise we can say that 0.001 milligram as a total dose, or subcutaneous or IM, and IV can also be given. So the cattle and horses are being used with this particular product is concerned. And the next product is Leuprolin, or it's also called as Leuprolide, and it is a synthetic GnRH receptor agonist. So please remember there are no antagonists. The Leuprolin, or it is very similar to that of the Buserelin, and it initially stimulates the gonadotrophin, luteinizing hormones, and follicle stimulating hormone, both from the anterior pituitary. But on long-term use, down regulates the secretion of both FSH and LH. So it is uncommon in veterinary practice because the continuous injection is not given, whereas in case of the human practice, this may be a case. Or Leuprolin has been approved mainly for the use in case of the human patients for the treatment of precocious puberty and the hormone responsive cancers such as the prostate cancers and also the breast cancer and the estrogen dependent conditions such as endometritis or the uterine fibroids. So uterine fibroids is also a very similar, the very common conditions, especially in case of the human being. And this drug is also used for the ovarian stimulation for the IVF or in vitro fertilization, because the multiple follicles should develop and grow in case of this particular situation where IVF, in vitro fertilization, is done. So more and more ova should be harvested. Next drug is the goserelin acetate, or it's also known as the Zoladex. There's the trade name, which is from the company AstraZeneca. So the goserelin is another receptor, the GnRH receptor agonist. So in comparison to the buserelin and the earlier drug, it has more affinity towards LHRH receptors and hence more specific action on the release of LH rather than the FSH. So because of this property, it can also be called as the LHRH, means luteinizing hormone releasing hormone. The goserelin, by binding with the LHRH receptors in the pituitary gland, goserelin causes the initial increase in the production of the luteinizing hormone and thus leading to an initial increase in the production of the corresponding sex hormones. So, however, the production of the end release of this especially the production and release of sex hormones, especially the male hormone, that's testosterone and estrogen, occur in a non-pulsatile manner. So on long-term use, what happens? The constant exposure to goserelin causes, once again, as usual, the down regulation, especially both the receptors, LHRH receptors, there will be down regulation. So this causes the decreased release of LH and makes resulting in the decreased quantity of the estrogen and also the testosterone in case of males. So after a period of 14 to 21 days of the injection, production of sex hormone is generally reduced to the castrated level. So this is also another the thing, and similar to other GnRH agonists, goserelin acetate is used mainly in case of the human medicine, and I think in future this medicine, goserelin, will be introduced into the veterinary practice, as the buserelin is already in the veterinary practice. So other GnRH receptor agonists may are many, especially they are all present in case of the human medicine, whereas the recent medicines have been utilized very well in case of the human beings, and yet they need to be released in case of the veterinary market is concerned. So the drugs used in excess of gonadotropin, yes, this happens especially sometimes whenever there are tumors, etc. Then there will be excessive secretion of the gonadotropin, both FSH and LH. So the GnRH antagonists are the drugs which inhibit the action of GnRH on the respective GnRH receptors. So these agents are synthesized by chemical modification of the GnRH molecule. So similar to the endogenous GnRH, they bind to the GnRH receptors on gonadotroph cells in the anterior pituitary. However, they do not result in stimulation of the gonadotropin secretion. Means the GnRH antagonists are used in excess secretion of these hormones, especially the FSH and LH, whereas these hormones, unlike the GnRH agonists, they decrease the FSH and LH release from the anterior pituitary without causing their initial elevation. So the antagonist, as the name indicates, the early GnRH antagonist has the limitation of producing reactions due to the histamine reactions. Means the allergy used to happen, but recently there are the recent receptor, the agonists are there, antagonists like ganirelix have a low histamine releasing potential with the GnRH antagonistic property. So the injection is available as ganirelix acetate, 250 microgram per 0.5 ml injection is available, and ganirelix acetate is a synthetic decapeptide with GnRH receptors antagonist property. Means it is going to have the blockage of the GnRH receptors. Then it is derived from the native GnRH with substitution of the amino acids at positions different as 1, 2, 3, 6, 8 and 10. So because of this changed structure activity relationship, the activity becomes antagonist. So the ganirelix competes with natural GnRH for binding to GnRH receptors in the pituitary gland is concerned. So the reduction in the LH subsequently leads to a rapid and sustained suppression of sex hormones from the gonads. As the name antagonist is going to bind with the receptors and block the receptor, whereas the ganirelix acetate have been approved mainly for the use, especially in case of the human medicine, for decreasing the premature LH surges in women and undergoing controlled ovarian hyperstimulation. Of course, the use of this ganirelix is somewhat rare in case of veterinary practice, as such conditions are not so very common. And the another drug is the Degarelix is another synthetic peptide obtained from the chemical modification of the natural GnRH. So the similar to Ganirelix, it is reversibly binds with the gonadotropin releasing hormone receptor in the pituitary glands, and totally it is going to block the endogenous release of the GnRH. This induces the fast and profound reaction in the level of the gonadotropins, and LH and FSH both will not be released. It has been approved mainly for the treatment of prostate cancers, especially in case of the human beings. So it is a rapid onset of action and leads to a rapid and sustained suppression of testosterone release from the testes, with subsequent fast reduction in size and growth of the prostate cancer. So the prostate cancer is one of the very common clinical condition after the age 45 and above, because here the prostate gland increases in its size and presses the urethra, and hence the widening of the urine will be drastically, it will be reduced. That's why there is a requirement of the such hormones, especially the antagonist. So the Degarelix, etc., they are very commonly used in case of the human practice. So of course, such conditions are not noted down in case of the veterinary practice is concerned. Coming to the other drugs like Abarelix and Cetrorelix are two important drugs. Of course, these are recommended for the treatment of the fibroid and breast and benign gynecological disorders like endometritis, uterine fibroids, and endometrial thinning. So these drugs are used in such condition. So this is the chemical structures and relative potency of GnRH and some GnRH receptor agonists. So the first agent is the GnRH, and we are going to consider the potency as 1. Then here it has got different amino acids as you are seeing in the screen. Then the lupreolin has got the 15 times more potency, whereas the buserelin 20 and the deserolin 144, and the hysterelin is 200 times potent than that of the GnRH natural, which has got the different amino acid sequence. So synthetic gonadal steroids are like the gestrinone. So you might have heard these many such names. At least remember that gestrinone is a synthetic steroid that acts as anti-progesterone with some androgenic activity also, because the androgens can be converted to estrogens, and estrogen can be reversed or conditioned into the progesterone. Yes, it has also shown to interact with the various receptors, especially the progesterone receptor. It is largely used for the treatment of endometritis, especially in case of the human medicine. Danazolol is a derivative of synthetic and steroid and modified testosterone. Its action is very similar to that of gestrinone. Now we will deal with another important hormone, that is the adrenocorticotropic hormone, or else it is abbreviated as ACTH, adrenocorticotropic hormone. It's also one of the important hormone which is very much required for the synthesis of the corticosteroids. So it regulates mainly the synthesis and secretion of the glucocorticoids from the adrenal cortex. So how to remember is adrenal cortex, cortisols means glucocorticoids or mineralocorticoids, whereas the adrenal medulla is going to stimulate or release the neurotransmitter norepinephrine and epinephrine. So 1 milligram of ACTH international standard is equivalent to 1 USP unit of the ACTH. So coming to the chemistry, adrenocorticotropic hormone, it's a single chain polypeptide hormone which especially in case of sheep, pig, cow and human do contain 39 amino acids with molecular weight of the 4500. That means it is one of the small structured hormone and it contains the 24 amino acids in it. So this is somehow identical, especially in case of many domestic animals studied so far. So it is derived from the larger peptide, that's the pro-opiomelanocortin or POMC. Then also gives rise to endorphins, two lipotrophins, and the two melanocyte stimulating hormones, MSH. So this is the structure, activity of that particular hormone is concerned. So in this diagrammatic representation, what you can understand is hypothalamus is the one which is going to stimulate the CRH, and the anterior pituitary do have the cells which can release the ACTH and send signals to produce the cortisol, androgens and aldosterons. So that's very common here, whereas the ACTH hormones, once it is secreted from the adrenal this anterior pituitary, it's going to act on the different channels, just like it is mentioned on the adrenal gland, especially on the adrenal cortex. It is going to act and release the corticosteroids. And coming to the regulation of the secretion, the physiological release of ACTH from anterior pituitary is always associated with the hypothalamic corticotrophin releasing hormone. So from the hypothalamus, CRH is released and a feedback control occurs. Whereas the corticotrophin releasing hormone, the ACTH release is stimulated by CRH, whose release from hypothalamus is under the neural control, particularly from the limbic system. And we have got a variety of stressful stimuli like cold, infections, severe cough, injury, toxins, anxiety, fear and blood loss causes the release of the CRH from the hypothalamus. So the catecholamines and vasopressin also potentiate the action of the CRH, whereas on the other hand, the ACTH secretion is inhibited by glucocorticoids, which exert an inhibitory feedback or influence on hormone by acting either directly on anterior pituitary or indirectly on the hypothalamus. So you might have seen the diagrams about this particular thing is concerned. And on pituitary, glucocorticoids act through the glucocorticoid receptors. So once again, there are very specific steroid receptors are present. And these effects are both rapid, occurring within seconds to minute, and delayed, requiring hours and involving the changes in the gene transcription. The ACTH concentrations in blood also influence the CRH release through an inhibitory feedback mechanism, but it is not so important mechanism when compared to the dopamine appears to be important to the negative control of ACTH release from pituitary gland in dogs and some other species. Whereas the secretion of ACTH from pituitary has a circadian rhythm, means in the day it may be less or in the night it may be more. So the diurnal rhythm is influenced by the higher neuronal centers in response to sleep-wake cycle, whereas it affects mainly the negative feedback control, especially system produced by the glucocorticoids, whereas the glucocorticoid level do not remain uniform in the blood throughout the day. So what happens? There is a release of the CRH, then ACTH and glucocorticoid concentration in morning and fall in the evening, especially in case of the human beings, pigs and horses. Whereas this is the reverse, especially in case of the nocturnal species. Dogs and cats do not show morning rise in glucocorticoids, whereas the further feedback inhibition also appears to be overpowered during the stress, because there is a rise in ACTH secretion and continuous despite high plasma level of the hydrocortisone, which is released by itself. Coming to the mechanism of action, the ACTH, adrenocorticotropic hormone, stimulate the ACTH specific G protein receptors present in the middle and inner layer of adrenal cortex to synthesize the glucocorticoids. Primarily, there are two types of the glucocorticoids, hydrocortisone and corticosterones. So these are the two important materials that is secreted from the adrenal gland. Number one is hydrocortisone and corticosterone. So this causes a temporary rise in case of whenever the CRH this is released, it is going to act on the hypothalamus, and the ACTH is released from the anterior pituitary. ACTH is going to stimulate the adrenal cortex and the corticosteroids are released. Physiological effect of the ACTH is to stimulate the synthesis and secretion of the glucocorticoids, especially the hydrocortisone and the corticosterones, especially by the middle and inner zones of the adrenal cortex. So in addition, small amounts of the sex hormones are secreted, especially the androgenic hormones, which exhibits about the same effects as body as the male sex hormones. And the mineralocorticoids production of outer zone of the adrenal cortex is less influenced by the pituitary ACTH, and the adrenocorticotropic hormone is required for the stimulation of synthesis but not secretion of the mineralocorticoids. And the adrenocorticotropic hormone, in addition to the adrenal steroidogenesis, has variety of the metabolic effects like lipolysis, ketosis and hypoglycemia. So these are produced by high concentration of the hormones. So ACTH, it is said that it also improves the learning in experimental animals, and many more actions are related. The ACTH is a hormone, releasing hormone, or CRH is also called as the corticotrophin releasing factor. It's a peptide composed of 41 amino acids in sheep and man. The cell bodies of the neurons which secrete CRH are also located mainly in the paraventricular nucleus. This is one of the important thing to remember. So the CRH receptors exist in two isoforms, that's the CRH1 and CRH2 receptors. So this is it's a G protein coupled receptor, means excitatory in nature. So there are the varieties of the disorders of the ACTH are there. Then the number one, there is a deficiency of the ACTH. So deficiency of the ACTH resulting from pituitary insufficiency, which leads to hypoadrenocorticism, or it is also called as the secondary hypocorticism. So the occurrence of the CTH deficiency in animal is somehow rare, but it occurs along with the deficiency of the other pituitary derived hormones, especially in patients suffering from pituitary dependent hypoadrenocorticism. The mineralocorticoid activity is generally maintained. So there are certain cases of excess of ACTH secretion also. Then the adrenocorticotropic hormone excess causes the release of corticotroph cells either in pars digitalis or pars intermedia. So it may also occur by ectopic secretions of ACTH by a tumor elsewhere in the body, such as an abdominal carcinoma. So the excess secretion of ACTH result in hyperplasia of adrenal cortex cells and clinical syndrome of hydrocortisone excess, or it's also called as the Cushing's disease, especially in case of the dogs. It's a very common disorder. So apart from this one, there is a treatment for the ACTH disorders, either excess or in deficiency. The pharmacological approach to adrenocorticotropic hormone is an important part of modern medicine, and the drugs are available for the treatment of ACTH deficiency and ACTH excess both. So the drugs used to treat ACTH disorders have been broadly classified into two classes. Number one, the drugs used in deficiency of the ACTH, whereas the another category is the drugs used in excess of ACTH. So here you can see that the drugs used in deficiency of the ACTH are the adrenocorticotropic hormone and analogs. The example is corticotrophin and tetracycline. So here you can see that the drugs used in excess of ACTH. So CRH1 receptor antagonists. Example, that is entalaramine and pexacephan, and dopaminergic receptor agonists are the bromocriptine. Example, bromocriptine pergolide and monoamine oxidase inhibitors like the selazelin. And also certain antihistamines are useful, like cyproheptadine. Especially if we have to deal with the drugs used in the deficiency of ACTH, adrenocorticotropic hormone and analogs. So the first agent is the corticotrophin. Corticotrophin, or the adrenocorticotropic hormone, or ACTH, is available commercially and is prepared mainly from the porcine pituitaries. So it is available as the corticotrophin for injection and respiratory corticotrophin for the injection, and the corticotrophin zinc oxide suspension are available, and currently corticotrophin is used mainly for the diagnostic tool to assess adrenocortical function, how the gland is functioning, etc. And the exogenous administration of corticotrophin essentially produces the effects very similar to those of the endogenous ACTH released from the anterior pituitary. So coming to the kinetics of these drugs, the corticotrophin is destroyed in GI tract, hence it need to be given parenterally only. So after IM injection, it is absorbed very rapidly, whereas the repository corticotrophin injection is absorbed very slowly over 8 to 16 hours. In case of cattle, the corticotrophin increases in the secretion of the 17 hydroxycorticosteroid within 30 minutes and lasts for 8 to 24 hours. So it has got a very short half-life, and it is due to the rapid enzymatic hydrolysis. The side effects, as usual, there is excess corticotrophin are in primary due to excessive secretion of the glucocorticoids from the adrenal cortex. So it has also got the vasopressin activity, which also lead to hyponatremia. So the hypersensitivity reactions are also seen as it is obtained from the porcine pituitary glands, and there are certain contraindications because it should not be used in case of the persons who is having the hypersensitivity reactions to this particular drug. Prolonged administration is not recommended, that is causes the varieties of the changes. And the clinical uses of this corticotrophin is limited, especially both in case of human and veterinary practice, because all of the known therapeutic effects can be achieved with appropriate dose of corticosteroid directly at lesser risk. Instead of indirectly stimulating, we can directly use the glucocorticoids or the mineralocorticoids. Whereas the present use of this hormone is for the diagnostic purpose of the gland, whether it's going to secrete the corticosteroids or not. So the clinical importance is not so significant. ACTH deficiency in case of primary bovine ketosis, especially in case which is 200 to 600 units, and ACTH stimulation test also it is used, or else it's the tolerance test. And another drug is tetracoxactide. So it is a synthetic peptide that contains the 124 N-amino terminal amino acids and the natural ACTH. So its mechanism of action and pharmacological effects are very similar to that of the earlier drug. It is less immunogenic than that of the corticotrophin, because the corticotrophin is obtained from the porcine pituitary naturally. So it is safe when used in case of recommended dose. So the indications are very similar to that of the other drug, whereas for the dose is mentioned here, and the drugs used in the excess of ACTH. Whenever there is a tumor of the brain, then that part may release excess of this ACTH, and sometimes the drugs are required to suppress the activity of ACTH. In case of dogs, this is a common disorder. Although the pharmacological treatment of pituitary-dependent hyperadrenocorticism is done mainly by the use of the adrenocorticolytic drug metadone. Though CRH receptor antagonists are also there, of course, there are varieties of the receptor, CRF1 and CRF2, whereas the enterolamine is a non-peptide drug that selectively blocks the CRH1 receptor and causes the release of the ACTH. Excessive release of CRH and ACTH is believed to directly or indirectly involved in many of the chronic and stressful conditions, especially in case of the all types of the animals. Then another drug, that's the pegozafermin, is recently developed CRF1 antagonist, which activity is similar to that of the enterolamine. and it reduces the action of CRH on its receptor and thus decreases the synthesis and release of ACTH from the anterior pituitary. Similar to entolimine, Pexermo is currently undergoing clinical trials and it need to come. Whereas the dopaminergic receptor antagonist like bromocriptine is and such drugs are very commonly used in case of both the veterinary as well as the human cases. So it is a potent dopaminergic receptor agonist which decreases the secretion of ACTH through an inhibitory effect on the anterior pituitary. So the effect of bromocriptine, however, is variable and it is observed only in case of small percentage of animals suffering from the pituitary dependent hyperadrenocorticism. Further relapses of the ACTH secretion are common after withdrawal of the particular drug. So here you can remember one of the drug like pergolide. Pergolide is an ergoline-based dopamine receptor agonist. So it is going to act on both dopamine 1 and dopamine 2 type of the receptors, and it's a potent drug. So it is the side effects and other things are there, whereas the monoamine oxidase inhibitors are also used. The example is selezelin hydrochloride, and selezelin is a selective and irreversible inhibitors of oxidase B enzyme. It inhibits ACTH secretion by increasing the dopaminergic tone of the pituitary axis is concerned, and it helps to restore depleted central dopamine levels mainly by selective and irreversible inhibition of the monoamine oxidase, the enzyme involved in degradation of dopamine and also the catecholamines. So monoamine oxidase is present in the case of synaptic cleft, then it is going to break the norepinephrine or epinephrine or other similar hormones or the neurotransmitters into various metabolites. Whereas certain antihistamines are also having the important actions like cyproheptadine. Cyproheptadine is an antihistamine with serotonin receptor antagonistic activity and also the calcium channel blocking properties. The action of the cyproheptadine in pituitary dependent hyperadrenocorticism is not so clear, but the antagonism of serotonin is sometimes thought to be the mechanism of action. So coming to the posterior pituitary hormone, the important hormones are here two major hormones. One is the vasopressin and another important hormone is oxytocin. So you might have heard about both the hormones. Vasopressin and oxytocin are synthesized by the posterior pituitary supraoptic and the paraventricular nuclei of the hypothalamus and then passed down the axons in combination with the proteins called as the neurophycins into the posterior pituitary. Especially the posterior pituitary, the hormones are stored in many secretory granules present in the dilated nerve endings and then released to the adjacent capillaries by exocytosis. Coming to the first hormone, that is the vasopressin, it's also called as antidiuretic hormone, or which is going to inhibit the urinary process. So vasopressin, or it's also called as ADH or ergipressin. It's a posterior pituitary hormone that is synthesized by the neurons situated primarily in the supraoptic nucleus, the hypothalamus. So it is involved mainly in the regulation of water balance and other also the maintenance of the blood pressure, especially in the body, especially the fluid and electrolyte balance, and also the blood pressure. And thus the homeostasis in the body is maintained by the posterior pituitary hormone vasopressin. In this figure, you can see the posterior pituitary gland and the nucleoli of the hypothalamus, and also the paraventricular nucleus and the supraventricular nucleus are here. So the two types of the nucleus are being stimulated especially, and here the posterior pituitary hormones like the oxytocin and the anti-diuretic hormone. So these are ultimately they are going to be released into the circulation. Coming to the chemistry, especially it's a nonapeptide with a sulfhydryl bridge connecting the residues 1 to 6. Therefore, the main form of the vasopressin in case of man, dog and most species is arginine vasopressin, because the reduction of the disulfide inactivates the hormone residues at 8 and is arginine in case of all the species except the pigs is lysine. That's why it's called as the arginine vasopressin. So the lysine vasopressin has only about half the antidiuretic activity of arginine vaccine. The vasopressin in birds contains isoleucine in place of phenylalanine at the position 3 of the arginine vasopressin, and is called as arginine vasotocin. So the name is different in case of the birds. So in contrast to hormones of anterior pituitary, vasopressin is not, and also the oxytocin is not regulated by the hypothalamic releasing hormone. There are no hypothalamic releasing hormones for the vasopressin and oxytocin, whereas the output of vasopressin is directly related to the degree of hydration of the body and increase in plasma osmolality, and which is the most important physiological stimulus for the secretion of the vasopressin from posterior pituitary. So whenever the plasma osmolality increases above the threshold level, that's the more than 280 milliosmoles per kg, selective osmoreceptors located in the hypothalamus, they are getting stimulated, which in turn activates the cells responsible for the synthesis and secretion of the vasopressin. And the release of the vasopressin causes increased solute-free water reabsorption, thereby maintaining the plasma osmolality and solute water into within a percent of normal values. Here also you can see that the antidiuretic hormone, or it is also called as the vasopressin, it is going to act on the blood vessels and kidney. In case of kidney, there is increased resorption of the water. Then ultimately this leads to increased blood volume and increased blood pressure, especially on the action on the blood vessels. So there is the mechanism is as usual with the other cells, which is going to act through the G protein coupled excitatory stimulus. And pain, nausea and hypoxia also stimulate vasopressin excess. The mechanism of action, they have got as usual, they have got the varieties of the receptors like V1 and V2 receptors. So once again V1, they are classified into V1A and V1B type of the receptors are there, especially in the on the adenohypophysis. So the as usual the release or the mechanism is maintained by activation of phospholipase C by GQ protein, causes generation of IP3, then DAG, and ultimately the action will be brought. So once again, the V1, V2 receptor, also called as the arginine and vasopressin 2 receptors, are present mainly in the principal cells of the renal collecting duct system and also detected in some blood vessels. So this is all the hormones are having interrelative relationships, and the V2 receptors are more sensitive to vasopressin. The activation of V2 receptors located on the basolateral membrane of the principal cells of renal collecting ducts, or they are also called as proximal convulsive ducts, so that the water excreted will be reabsorbed into the circulation. So here you can see that the hypothalamus is responsible for the secretion and control of the posterior pituitary gland, whereas it is what you call as the situations like hyperosmolality and decreased atrial pressure firing will stimulate the hypothalamus to stimulate the posterior pituitary, whereas the vasopressin, especially arginine vasopressin, is going to be released. It is going to act on the V1 type of the receptor and V2 type of the receptors, which are present on the blood vessels and kidneys respectively. So vasopressin is going to cause the constriction of the blood vessels and also increases the fluid reabsorption in the kidneys, so that both contribute to increased systemic vascular resistance, and this increased systemic vascular resistance causes the increased arterial pressure, and ultimately the blood pressure increases. That's why the antidiuretic hormone means the hormone which is going to inhibit the process of the urination, means formation of the urine. Coming to the physiological effect, vasopressin has both renal and extrarenal effect. Renal means directly it's acting on the kidney and increases the water reabsorption, and also acts on the blood vessels and cause constriction. So it is going to bind to the V2 type of the receptors to increase water permeability and resorption in the collecting duct tubules, and up to 90% of the fluid filtered by glomerulus and not absorbed in case of the proximal nephron is reabsorbed under the influence of the vasopressin. So in the absence of vasopressin, the collecting ducts are impermeable to water, and dilute urine is passed as such, because without the reabsorption the urine is going to be passed, and also transiently increase sodium absorption. So the V receptors participate in renal response, and it is the one here you can see in this particular diagram. You can see that the hypothalamus is going to control the release of the what you call as arginine vasopressin, and arginine vasopressin is going to act on the heart and decreases heart rate, whereas it is going to act on the kidneys, and the water reabsorption is markedly it is being increased. So it causes the increase in case of the diuresis is concerned, whereas the vascular smooth vessel contraction occurs and ultimately vasoconstriction occur. And apart from this one, the platelet organization etc. Are also going to be influenced with the arginine vasopressin, especially in case of all the domestic animal species, including the human being. So in general, the V1 action leads to restrain V2 modified water permeability, since V2 action is produced much lower concentration of the vasopressin, and also the certain effects like the cardiovascular system is going to act with the different type of the receptors. And blood vessels of the skin, mesenteric lymph nodes, mesentery, skeletal muscles, thyroid, fat, and pancreas appear to be more sensitive to the action of the arginine vasopressin when compared to the other systems. So so it's also going to act on the central nervous system and also the blood coagulation system, and has got